After a hiatus away from the Colorado Buffaloes, we finally received an update on Deion Sanders and his future with the program.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr. But today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at Monarch, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so don't miss out on a moment of the coverage, because obviously there's a lot of things happening in Boulder that you, the people, need to know about. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. So, I mean, it was the biggest news of the offseason. We all had our concerns. We all had our worries, and Deion Sanders was away from the program. He had a health issue that he talked about on Asante Samuel's podcast. He said it made him lose 14 pounds, and then we never really heard anything else, right? There was speculations that he was going to retire. There was a lot of people who immediately jumped to the conclusion that this was his way of sort of leaving the program, his way of finding the quick exit, be like, you know what, his sons are no longer here. It's time to exit the program. That's not what he did, right? Colorado head coach Deion Sanders was battling something, and he joined the media today and talked about it. And he was joined by Lauren Askewald, the athletic trainer who helps him with a lot of his treatments for his amputated foot, his leg, which he's had plenty of surgeries on. And then he was also joined by, and I hope I don't butcher her name, Dr. Janet Kureja. She's the director of urologic oncology at the Colorado Cancer Center and the UC Health University of Colorado Hospital. So obviously a bigwig at the hospital. Whenever you see director of something, you know it's serious, and it was serious. And so they broke it down for us. And I'll give you guys the breakdown that the common person understands, because obviously there was a lot of medical terms being thrown around. And although I was a bio major for one semester, I do not fully understand all the biometric and biology explanations of things. So when Deion Sanders was going for a CT scan for his vascular health, which again, that relates to the toes he has had amputated, the tumors that he's had in his thighs, his legs, it was revealed that something else popped up. They got a call and they said he needed to be referred to a urologist, which led to him needing a procedure. This procedure was due to him having a bladder tumor. Now, he did joke about it in true Deion Sanders form, in true Deion Sanders fashion, that this marked surgery number 14 for him. As a coach, right? He said this is more surgeries than he had as a player during his time with the Falcons. So obviously his health has been a concern as of late. But the surgery was a success. They removed his bladder and they cured his cancer. He is cancer free. He didn't tell his sons, right? He said he didn't tell anyone in his family because, one, he didn't want this news to get out. He didn't want to worry anyone because his two sons, Shador Sanders, who's with the Cleveland Browns, the 5th-round pick, and Shiloh Sanders, who's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is an undrafted free agent. He didn't want them to worry, right? The only son that knew, from what it sounded like, was Deion Sanders Jr., who was by his side the entire time, making sure that he was okay. He told Colorado's team yesterday, I even did some digging to see if anyone around the program, around the team, would be willing or able to say what happened, and everyone kept this close to the vest, right? Coach Prime said he changed his number multiple times. He said a bunch of people checked in on him. Randy Moss was one of the people who checked in on him almost every day, and he just wanted to battle this. He wanted to fight this, right? He had surgery, and the only thing that's different for him now, and this is his words, not mine, he's going to pee differently. I know that's a little bit of a different update that we give on Locked On Buffs, but he's going to pee differently. Obviously, with the removal of his bladder, he doesn't have full control over his bladder. So he said, quote, "I can't pee like I used to pee. Quote, it truly depends on depends. I cannot control my bladder. If you see a porta potty on the sideline, obviously that is why." He also had a message for men, African-American men, white men, Hispanic men in general. Obviously, as men, we pride ourselves on toughness. We pride ourselves on thinking we are above pretty much everything, right? We think we're tough. We think we're mighty. We think that everything's fine. If we just ignore it, things will be fine. Coach Prime said this wasn't easy, men, and everybody get checked out. He said, get yourself checked out, because obviously had he not been checked out for his CT scan, which is something that he does frequently to make sure that his other health issues are okay, this may have never been found. And the doctor themselves said that, this could have been a different conversation, or Deion Sanders himself said this could have been a different sort of gathering, right? And that's obviously the morbid side of things, and shows the morality of all this is if you don't get yourself checked out frequently, you open yourself up to other health issues that may or may not impact your life. So Deion Sanders is cancer-free. The doctor said, quote, "I am pleased to report that the results from the surgery are that he is cured from the cancer. Tumor removed." Again, go get yourself checked out. And then in terms of coaching Colorado, because that has been the big question, there's been a lot of rumors about his future with the team. And I was aware that there was a health concern, as we all were. It's not something that I wanted to touch on because obviously I didn't have any of the details about what he was dealing with. And I didn't want to touch on that, right, up until we got confirmation from the man himself. Because obviously when you hear he's going to have a meeting with his health professionals or his health team, you start to jump. Your mind starts to run. It's like, okay, what's going to happen? Is he okay? Is he going to make it? Because I think at the end of the day, and people forget this, especially in sports, we think of when we hear Deion Sanders has a health concern, our immediate reaction is to go, oh my gosh, right? They just went 9-4. They're trying to replace Shedeur Sanders. They're trying to replace Travis Hunter. They're trying to build something. They're trying to prove that this transfer portal method can work. And it's like, let's pause for a moment. He's a human, right? He is a person who is going through something. And so immediately I find myself going, okay, let's wait, right? Let's see how Deion Sanders, the person, is doing before we worry about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, the coach, that is. And in terms of what's next for him, he says I'm able, I'm strong, I'm ready. So he's going to continue to coach. And again, he's just has a new life in terms of what his health challenges have provided. Now, I think this was a scary offseason for Colorado fans in the sense of like they had no concept of what was happening. I think a lot of people jumped to conclusions simply to chase the headlines, right? I think it's more fun if you're chasing headlines to be like, Deion Sanders is retiring. Oh no. And it's like, Deion Sanders is doing this. Oh no, before realizing or learning what was happening. So again, I'm going to reiterate it just because it's exciting news, right? I think Coach Prime deserves to be celebrated for what he's been through. He deserves to be celebrated for what he's overcome. And it deserves to have his story out there. The truth, not just this headline chasing like, what are we going to do? Right. So again, CT scan for his vascular health. Right. And if you guys don't know, he's had toes amputated. He's had surgeries on his legs. Right. He's had blood clots. He had multiple surgeries, 2 toes amputated in 2021, emergency surgery in 2023 for a blood clot in his thigh and below the knee. He has a limp. Obviously, he has a lot of ongoing issues with that. But at the end of the day, he also had bladder cancer, a bladder tumor, right? So a lot of health issues for the Pro Football Hall of Famer. He had to be referred to a urologist, ended up needing another procedure number 14, as I said earlier. The bladder was removed, and he's cured of cancer, right? And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is that Deion Sanders is cancer-free. You got to be happy for Deion Sanders, the person, before you even think of Deion Sanders, the coach. Now, I'll get to what's next for Deion Sanders, the coach, because obviously he's been away since they said the scan was initially after the spring game. So Colorado's spring game, let's see, the date was the 19th of April. So around April-ish, we'll call it, he was away from the program, right? He was not with the program. He was staying in Texas. He was watching his sons chase their dreams in the NFL. And obviously it didn't go as planned for Shedeur as he fell, but he was battling a lot of things, right? And there's a lot more to people's story than we realize. And I think that's a reminder for us as people to maybe not judge a book by its cover, or maybe not cast our own thoughts onto someone else, right? We have to remind ourselves, like, we're all humans at the end of the day, and we all want to be healthy. To really emphasize how scary this was for Deion Sanders, he released a video Sunday, and the video talked about like, hey, I had to draft up a will, right? That's something you never want to do I'm assuming as a parent, right? I think it's something that my parents have done with me. And it was very uncomfortable. My parents are both in good health. They're in their 60s. And like, even then it was scary for me because that's when it really starts to hit you. And it was just like Deion Sanders said, you don't want to be unprepared. And that's sort of the duality of this is like, obviously he knew he was healthy and he knew he was cancer free, but this sort of scare highlighted like, hey, I need to be ready for other things. And this is a tough conversation. This is a tough thing to be ready for. And he had to be ready for it, right? And obviously, we don't have to worry about that right now. The doctor herself said that she doesn't take saying cancer-free lightly at all. She said not everybody is as lucky as Coach Prime. Some people have years to live, right? But Coach Prime is cancer-free. They're going to keep checking on him. They're going to keep he's going to keep rehabbing and learning how to pee, according to him. And yeah, I think it was just a very serious scenario, a very serious situation. And I'm glad that it worked out for Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. Now that we know that Coach Prime is healthy, Deion Sanders, the person, is healthy, let's talk about what is next for him, right? Because he's been away from the team. He hasn't been able to coach. He hasn't been able to participate. Now, he has a lot of good coaches around him, which I'll get to in a second. But let's talk about what is next for Colorado head coach Deion Sanders.